So yeah, I have 2 or 3 kind of quick ones. And to be very honest, just for time reasons, I'll go pretty fast through the first couple ones because in all candidness, I think they sort of overlap. Maybe it provides an alternative. There's actually multiple versions of screencast softwares. So this one actually works very, very similar to the ones that we've seen. So I'll quickly show this one. Screener at screener.com, screener.com, is a free web-based software, so you don't have to download anything. Of course, as you would expect, they have a premium upgrade plan. If you want to do longer screencasts, they're going to charge you. There's extras that get unlocked, basically. But the way it works is pretty similar to what you've seen already. I use this, obviously, to do screencasts for my various classes, especially if I have sort of a tutorial style thing and I want to show or teach a technology. I'll actually do a screencast for it. I'll show you a demo of that in a second. I also use it for student feedback. Actually, I think you mentioned that. You recommended doing that, and I've done that as well. So it's basically if a student has everything from a document and I'm basically reviewing their, their report or their paper, I'll actually call up their document, do a screencast of it, and comment verbally on it and scroll and show them what I'm making a comment on. As an example of how this works, basically, similar to what you've seen already, you basically, once you've loaded it in, or the website, you just click on the launch button. It takes a quick second to detect the Java, and actually I think this is identical to the screen nomadic, right? I mean, literally it looks almost like it's the same interface, really. So it's the same way, and basically you can, as the other example showed, you can actually grab the edges and position and make a decision which part of your screen you want to have it record. I know in my case, a lot of times I want to hide the taskbar at the bottom, maybe the URL path, and just have it pure content. And so I'll position it accordingly. And then again, similar to what we've seen already, it works very identical. You'd hit the record button, it starts the countdown. Again, I mean, we're talking almost identical, right? Boom. And as of now, actually it looks like the mic's not active, but it would be recording me, of course. And when you're done, you hit the done button. It'll quickly confirm that your screencast is ready. It'll give you an immediate web embeddable, previewable version of it. You can actually add your data to it or your descriptive text at the bottom. One of the things that's really nice about this, though, actually I'm going to go to previous screencasts, is you can actually upload to YouTube immediately, or you can download and grab that MP4 file if you so desire, or of course you can delete it. I do a lot of transferring these over to YouTube. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a cautionary tale. We've seen a lot of technologies and tools today. I'm guilty of being the type of person who loves the bells and whistles, so I'll see something, oh, I want to try it out. And the problem of being on the leading/bleeding edge of things is that sometimes those companies go under. And I had a situation, oh my gosh, it was like 2 years ago, where I had an online class where literally I had an entire semester's worth of lecture material in not this service, but another one that was very similar to it. And midway through, they just went out of business. And so, and I was kind of dumb. I didn't really make backups of it. So I had to hustle and recreate a lot of those lectures. So to be very candid, from learning that experience, I've had that happen to me twice, actually. I have learned to sort of make sure that I keep a local version of whatever it is I create and have the source file. So I usually will look at technologies that allow me to create those local MP4 files, or of course YouTube's not going to go anywhere. So that's pretty safe at that point. But that's Screener. Again, functionality-wise, very similar to what we've seen already. This is an example of, I'll just play it for a split second here.
Hey Marina, I got your email and I have a screen capture going to kind of show you how to fix the problem, at least what I think the problem is. So
essentially this is an example where I had a student email doing a video production project. It's one of the classes I teach. And I mean, it's really tough when it's like the night before the deadline. You're somewhere, they're somewhere else. You can't lean over their shoulder and show them how to fix something. So I just fired up the program and literally just showed them to, hands-on how to fix this problem, where the settings were in the Adobe Premiere program, etc. So I will frequently do this sort of immediate feedback. It sounds like it's cumbersome, but it actually really took me like 2 minutes, as long as it took to compose an email. And I think the students, I do this frequently, the students almost invariably tell me that they're just grateful. They're like, thank you, that really helped me understand it better, especially if it's a concept that doesn't translate as well into words. These are all embeddable. Here's an example of how this would look embedded. This is the Screener hosted version. I typically create a YouTube instance of this as well, but that's how it looks like. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one that I'll show you that's a little bit different. It's called Narrable, and I just only recently discovered this. This is a small startup out of Oklahoma, and Narrable.com is really interesting. I've had students create projects on this. I have not used it myself for education purposes, but I'm going to. I'm going to show you an example of this and how it works. What's a little bit different about Narrable, this is a student project that just turned in. I'll just play this for a second, and then I'll explain what it is and how it works.
This project will feature the Compton Union Building Auditorium and its amazing student resources. The Compton Union Building has been providing students with the services they need to be successful since 1946. The Cub offers a variety of
And I'll pause it there. But obviously what you see is an interactive sort of slideshow with narrations. And there's a lot of services out there that can do this kind of thing. What's different about Narrable is the way that you create your content. So I've logged into a Narrable account. I've got my pictures of my dog, who I recently adopted from a Greek shelter, believe it or not. And so this is a project in progress. Obviously, I had the source images that I just dropped and dragged into this thing. I love that it has almost like what I call comic book style paneling. You can actually change the scaling and scope and positioning so that the story, as it sort of progresses once you hit play and you create it, can take this idea of panels. You know, it doesn't have to be just one image at a time, full screen. You can kind of create this sort of aesthetic to it. But the way that I add audio to this is what I think is unique and different than some of the other services that are out there. So for example, if I'm ready to record a narration to tell the story about how I adopted this dog or how to do something if it's a student's production or whatever, you can literally go to the upper corner. For every single image has its own instance of an audio file that's associated with that image. So rather than have one long form MP3 file where it's the duration of it, you can actually go and record just a unique, very quick burst of information just specific to that respective slide, and it gets stored and associated as a small audio file with that image. It's synced perfectly. And the way that you upload audio to this is one of three ways, two of which are pretty expected, one is not. Obviously, if you have a mic set up, you can just record it right in, just hit the record button, and then hit stop, and then all of a sudden, it's immediately stored in the cloud there, and it's associated with it. If you have a pre-recorded existing audio file that may be pre-edited or whatever, and you want to bring that into it, you can literally hit the upload button and upload it. And then the third, which I think is a little bit unique, is you can actually hit the call to record, and even if you don't have a great sophisticated mic setup, what you'll do is you'll enter in your phone number here, hit call, and they will actually call you back and then say, okay, at the beep, record your narration. And then basically it's like leaving a message. So you record through your smartphone or your telephone, and then they instantly take that, convert it into an audio file, and link it to your production. So talk about if you're on location, you don't have access to some of the more sophisticated, and there's like a mobile thing of this as well. So you can do a very quick and easy. It's not the best audio quality, obviously, from a telephone, but it does the trick if it's just a sort of a simple narrative form. And so like an example of that in action was the piece that we just looked at. I think part of that was actually phoned in, as it were. So I have a lot of students working with this. I teach a multimedia journalism class. We love to explore new technologies, and that's one that we've used. Okay, two more quick things. This one I'll be very quick on. I think most people here are familiar with SoundCloud. I'll just acknowledge and address the fact that I use SoundCloud very candidly in the most simplistic of forms, and that is to add a quick audio-only summary to a respective lecture. I do a lot of work in the online course spaces. Here's an example of an overview file that's embedded within the Angel system. So basically what I like to do is, as I have for an online class or in my class blogs for physical-based classes, I will usually just do like a 2 or 3 minute overview at the top, just with my voice, and then embed it there. The other thing that's interesting about SoundCloud that's not so frequently used, but it's interesting from an educational point of view, is they actually have interactive annotations and or comment threads to specific points within the audio. So for example, in this here we see, this is just me recording like a lesson 15 summary, right? But basically, if I wanted to add a little text annotation, I can just go to this comment thread right here. Let me pause that. Go to the comment thread. Wherever I've paused or created a point within the timeline of this audio, I can actually write a comment and then hit enter. And it gets added as a little pop-up annotation at that point. So that you can see it just got added there. And so you can actually have students interacting or asking questions. Hey, when you said this, what did you mean? Or, yeah, I get that. You know, or, so you can actually have a whole bunch of little annotation points from either just yourself as the content creator or the comment annotations engaged in a back and forth with your students as well. It's a great way to sort of get that back and forth feedback to your audio file that you create. All right, the final thing that I'm going to show you is weird. So I'm disclaiming that right up front. So it's a little out of the box. And I think given the sort of structure of today's presentations from everybody with so many fantastic technologies, I wanted to be a little out of the box and throw something out there just to sort of close you know, the conversation on this. And how many people here are familiar with Google Glass, first of all? Okay, what about Oculus Rift? Anyone? So these have in common, they're wearable media devices, subject to perhaps overhype, frankly, right now, but there's a lot of enthusiasm and interest and curiosity, suspicion, annoyance by these devices that are out there. And from an educational perspective, it's very interesting to think about where we may be in the not too distant future with some of these wearable media devices from an educational point of view. So first of all, a couple of things to sort of show you. Just interesting total coincidence on timing. This is the promotional page for Google Glass. Google Glass today, and for today only, has opened this up to the general public for purchasing. Not that I recommend you do so. I still think they're way overpriced. But they've only been available for limited access, people that are in the development program, but today they're just doing it for a 24-hour cycle. They brought this out, so we're getting the first ideas of how they're actually going to, from a consumer's perspective, market these devices, and they allow for sort of this mix of hybrid, you know, obviously reality, but also, you know, the data that gets privately shown to you through these little devices that are there as well. There's a lot of privacy considerations. I, frankly, as a teacher, I'm a bit fearful about the world we're going to be in 5 or 10 years when I have students wearing these kind of devices. Not that I do anything inappropriate in the classroom, but I have to operate now under the assumption that everything I say could and probably will be at some point uploaded to YouTube and or for the world to see. So sort of just sort of a Big Brother-esque warning of where we're heading for this. So these are coming very, very soon. They're out right now for consumer overpriced. Again, I think they're $1,500 for a device. Those will come down significantly in price. But where I want to focus my energy is actually something that I'm frankly a little more closer to. Just to kind of show you an example here. I'm going to show you, there's actually software applications and simulated environments that are being created. People have made the mistake of assuming that Oculus Rift is a gaming thing. Oh, it's that virtual world gaming thing. And yes, that's true, that is a big chunk of it. But there are actually immersive 360 real footage movies that are actually starting production. Richard Attenborough, if you guys know him, has a partnership with the National Geographic Society. They just announced it 2 days ago. They've commissioned the first 360 documentary. That means they have a camera that sort of captures every single thing in a 360, you know, the entire you know, reality of what's going around. And when you're watching this movie back with this headset, you can literally move your head up and around, and you can choose where the camera pans to as the action takes place around you. So 3D or 360 cinema is coming. There's another production as well that's already been completed that's in post-production that will be out when the Oculus Rift hits its consumer release as well. Here's an example of a sort of a STEM application. I'll just let the video play and explain itself here.
At Lancaster, we have never doubted that immersive virtual reality is going to revolutionize the world. The acquisition of the Oculus Rift by Facebook tells us that we are certainly not alone in this position. But we also believe that virtual reality is about much more than just enhancing gaming experience and social communication. We believe it is the future of how we will educate our children and the next generation of scientists to come. Lancaster has known this for some time now, and that's why we have worked hard to develop what Facebook is now hoping to be the future, except we have it today. We took the Oculus Rift and combined elements from both the gaming industry and science education to create the most engaging, immersive virtual reality educational science platform. Accommodating the future demand of our next generation of young scientists.
So there's a lot of companies, I guess I should just really step back for 1 second. Just they mentioned this in the video, but I didn't mention it. If you've watched the news, the big buzz on this has been this frankly surprising or shocking acquisition of the Oculus Rift, the hardware device company that's in its early days, by Facebook for $2 billion. And this happened like 2 weeks ago, I think, or so. And that surprised a lot of people. I've had a personal connection to the virtual world space through a company called Linden Research Inc., Linden Lab, based out of the Silicon Valley. I've done a lot of work with virtual worlds, virtual education. We've had what I would say is mixed results here at WSU. We did a virtual replica, 3D replica. Actually, some wonderful people from the global campus actually helped with that in its earlier days. We did a replica of WSU. There's been a lot of teachers that have experimented with it, and to be very candid, it was a little ahead of its time, and a lot of complications for it. But the hardware that is now getting ready to hit from a consumer version perspective is really pretty sophisticated. It's much, much more robust, lightweight. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I certainly understand the ridicule that would happen with it. To sort of close on this to that effect, interesting video here. This is a 90-year-old woman for the first time putting on the Oculus Rift, and this is sort of somebody grabbing her reaction to it.
So is it too big for your head?
I'm holding it tight.
What do you? Oh,
Which is good. Did you get the picture of her doing that?
I'm taking a video. This is going on YouTube.
Oh man.
Cynthia, what do you think?
It's so real. And it's a picture in here, huh?
Yeah,
Oh Lord.
that's pretty cool, right?
It sure is. And you know what? Is it my eyes or are the leaves blowing in?
They're blowing. You're right. You see it.
Oh man.
How cool is that?
Do you want to see the ocean?
Yeah.
All right, I'll walk you over to the ocean. You want to look over to your left, I believe? Yeah, that way.
You can look straight again if you want.
And look a little bit towards your right. Yeah, keep going to your right.
Oh, I see. I see something coming.
Yeah, you're going to want to
Put her up close to something so she can look like it.
Should I put my bathing suit on?
Yeah.
It's really cute. It goes on a while as she sort of just is wowed and overwhelmed by it. It's a pretty amazing experience having checked it out myself. They're in the second generation of the kits that are out there. I think right now the rate is like $350 compared to the $1,500 for the Google Glass. But the consumer version isn't even out yet. This is, again, pre-release stuff. Post-traumatic stress disorder therapy. Obviously, we talked about the science, exploration of distant locations, replicas of historical, periods of time. All sorts of amazing things are possible with this sort of simulated virtual reality headsets that are out there. And it's not all gaming stuff. Again, even real footage related 360 films and things are in the works. So that's pretty much it for me. Thanks. Classes, especially if I have sort of a tutorial style thing and I want to show or teach a technology, I'll actually do a screencast for it. I'll show you a demo of that in a second. I also use it for student feedback. Actually, I think you mentioned that. You recommended doing that, and I've done that as well. So it's basically if the student has everything from a document and I'm basically reviewing their report or their paper, I'll actually call up their document, do a screencast of it, and comment verbally. You can actually grab the edges and position and make a decision which part of your screen you want to have it record. I know in my case, a lot of times I want to hide the taskbar at the bottom, maybe the URL path, and just have it pure content. And so I'll position it accordingly. And then again, similar to what we've seen already, it works very identical. You'd hit the record button, it starts the countdown. Again, I mean, we're talking almost identical, right? Boom. And as I show this one, Screener, at screener.com, screener.com, is a free web-based software, so you don't have to download anything. Of course, as you would expect, they have a premium upgrade plan. If you want to do longer screencasts, they're going to charge you. There's extras that get unlocked, basically. But the way it works is pretty similar to what you've seen already. I use this, obviously, to do screencasts for my various So yeah, I have 2 or 3 kind of quick ones. And to be very honest, just for time reasons, I'll go pretty fast through the first couple ones because in all candidness, I think they sort of overlap. Maybe it provides an alternative. There's actually multiple versions of screencast softwares. So this one actually works very, very similar to the ones that we've seen. So I'll quickly on it and scroll and show them what I'm making a comment on. As an example of how this works, basically, similar to what you've seen already, you basically, once you've loaded it in, or the website, you just click on the launch button. It takes a quick second to detect the Java. And actually, I think this is identical to the screen nomadic, right? I mean, literally, it looks almost like it's the same interface, really. So it's the same way, and basically, you can, as the other example showed,